Hi friends, welcome back to another episode of Generation Tech. My name is Alan. Stereotyping others is a behavior we're genetically predisposed to have. It helps us make sense of the world around us, and it's a way for us to apply past experiences to new terrifying situations. We're also genetically predisposed to go to extreme lengths to keep our bodies nourished. That's why shipwreck survivors occasionally resort to cannibalism. Which means just because we're naturally hardwired to do something doesn't necessarily mean we have to be slaves to our more primitive urges, like Ewoks are, or filthy Bothans. While stereotyping other people might give us short-term satisfaction by classifying the unknown, if we stick to our preconceived notions and don't try to be flexible, we might grossly miscalculate our interactions with new people we meet. Each individual on this planet is different, and putting them in a category discredits that individuality and closes off new opportunities to connect with people. Which is why stereotyping others is kind of a stupid thing to do, but it can also be really funny, especially when you're presenting stereotypes in front of a crowd that's open-minded and able to take a good joke. Which is why today we're going to start a series that will be covering stereotypes of citizens from different worlds in the Star Wars galaxy, starting off today with Alderaanians. If you think you like where this is heading, don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button so you know exactly when the rest of this series comes out. It's always easy to spot an Alderaanian, especially before the Galactic Civil War. They were known for being carefree, colorfully dressed, and usually practitioners of no less than 3 forms of art. They had a sense of nobility that could be perceived as either inspiring or just elitist and annoying. Legends have it humans first colonized Alderaaan 27,500 years before the Battle of Yavin, making it one of the oldest planets in the entire Republic. Something that proud Alderaanians will be sure to remind you of routinely. But should you remind them that Alderaanians first took that planet from a race of sentient insects known as the Killiks, who had been on Alderaan for almost 1,000,000 years before them, they'll first be surprised by your acute understanding of ancient Alderaanian history, and then they'll mutter something quietly about how it's all just legends, and how recent studies question whether Killiks were even sentient in the first place, at which point you will pull out your holopad and show them several images of ancient Killik cities found on archaeology digs, followed by pictures of ancient burial grounds where Killik skeletons have Alderaanian slug thrower shells lodged into their skulls, at which point the Alderaanian will most likely change the subject to something else. Despite its relative youth on a longer galactic scale, Alderaaan is still considered quite an old planet, especially on a human scale. And through the ages, peace and stability allowed the planet to flourish. With its beautiful vistas and natural wonders and rich resources, Alderaaan quickly became known as a planet with an extremely high quality of life. Which is why Alderaaan, unlike its more crowded neighboring planets, purposely restricted development of megacities on its planet's surface and enacted some of the strictest environmental protection policies in the galaxy, which created swaths of protected land across the planet. Despite being a high-tech planet, Alderaanians grew up surrounded by nature and understood how to appreciate it. Most grew up to be passionate about environmental issues and protecting natural treasures, which is why one should never litter in front of an Alderaanian, even if you're on some trash planet like Jakku where everything is garbage in the first place, because they'll give you an earful about how that dirt plastic container you just threw in the sand will probably stay there for millions of years before it decomposes. Because Alderaaan was able to resist the immediate and quick reward of industrialization, it was able to build their economy on a different, more forward-thinking model. The planet soon began attracting a different type of wealth. Painters, musicians, actors, writers, philosophers, and scientists were all drawn and inspired by this world's beauty. And along with them came rich individuals seeking a peaceful and safe home for their family. Although Alderaaan wasn't extremely rich by traditional standards, it had very high living standards. This was also helped by the fact that the government was very socialist and had universal health care along with universal education that was free for all. It was almost ridiculous how free education was on this planet. It was uncommon for an Alderaanian to be a lifelong learner, bouncing from one field to another and never actually progressing into the workforce. It's why Alderaanians were commonly known to have many different interests, far more than most individuals in other parts of the galaxy could afford to have. But because most Alderaanians have what we here on Earth call a liberal arts education, a lot of them had trouble focusing on one specific field, which hurt their employment opportunities. But that didn't mean Alderaanians weren't successful. As a matter of fact, the ones who were financially motivated usually did quite well in business. Although Alderaanians typically found themselves working as entrepreneurs and freelancers rather than in the private sectors for other people. Being their own boss gave them the flexibility they were used to growing up. Other Alderaanians were driven more by social issues or ideology, and found themselves working in the non-profit sector. Alderaan had a very rich culture of democracy. Its populace was heavily engaged in both planetary politics and also galactic politics. Ironically though, Alderaan wasn't a true democracy, it was a hereditary constitutional monarchy. Alderaanian was also known for opening its doors to refugees from other worlds, especially during the turbulent time after the rise of the New Order. Naturally, with the increased flood of refugees from the Outer Rim, troubled elements snuck into Alderaanian as well, and began preparing an extensive insurgency network. This conflicted against most Alderaanians who were pacifists and extremely proud of the fact that Alderaanian had not been involved in a war for several hundreds of years. But should you mention Alderaanian during the Old Republic era and its active participation in several Jedi-Sith wars and hawkish pro-war stance, they'll just laugh that off as legends from another era. The Alderaanian government mostly mirrored its people's view on pacifism, but after the dissolution of the Imperial Senate, Viceroy Bail Organa led his planet on a path of death and destruction by supporting the terrorist organization known as the Rebel Alliance. After the destruction of Alderaanian by the Death Star, the Alderaanian diaspora wandered the galaxy looking for a new home, forever mourning the one they had lost. Alderaanian was a beautiful example of what the galaxy could look like during a very peaceful and stable time. It was a paradise where the biggest problem most citizens faced was finding something meaningful to do with their free time. Which is why, if you can get past the fact that their lives are probably much better than yours, Alderaanians are actually really interesting acquaintances. Well guys, I hope you enjoyed our coverage of Alderaanian Stereotypes. We're going to continue the series, so don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification button. Well, thanks for joining us today. If you're watching this, you are Generation Tech.